Green bells wrapped around our minds, and endless red tape to keep the truth confined. They will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about the delay. I have the wonderful Dr. Jill Stein back tonight. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining me again. I always love spending time with you, whether in person or on the air.
I agree. I agree. I say more of this, more of this. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Well, if you guys, if you don't follow me or Dr. Jill, you may not know, but last month we did a town hall and for the residents in and around East Palestine, Ohio. Um, Residents still talking about it today.
Oh, wow.
It
Oh,
was so powerful for not even just a presidential candidate, but for a doctor, an environmentalist, and someone who actually cares about we the people to go in and listen to them, especially after Biden had come after over a year and done absolutely nothing. They were all understandably feeling very disheartened, and not that they expected much, but there's always that little bit of hope, like, come on, we don't know what else to hope for. And you really, really made an impression on them. And I
man.
think it also goes to show you that a lot of more rural places, they might not know what a Green Party is, and some of them didn't. I mean, oh, oh, but now they do. Now they know what a Green Party is. Now they know about ballot access. Now they know these things. So you can't just say, a lot of people are like, oh, whatever, that's Trump country. They're humans. Doesn't
Oh,
matter.
man. Yeah, you're not kidding. I mean, there was so much that we agreed on. Just how working people are being thrown under the bus and betrayed by both political parties. And they were quick to say that they had been Republicans, but not anymore. Now they just see the whole system as the predatory sham that it is. And I have to say, it was so uplifting to hear them and the power of their stories and, what is being done to them and their incredible grace under fire. In some ways, it's almost, we came away from there saying, from East Palestine to Palestine,
Yeah.
empire is doubling down and throwing people under the bus. And they're sort of, it's hard to compare the tragedies in each of those places, but they are tragedies.
Yeah.
And the people are being so gracious in their just effort to survive and maintain their humanity and to be caring and loving about each other and the wider world. And it was just so uplifting. I mean, we talk about that experience all the time. We talk about what we learned in East Palestine and how people are rising up, and the rebellion is across the political spectrum, and the way that they are advocating for themselves and investigating, against the weight of the EPA and corporate America and, and the railroads, that are hiding information, that are telling them that they're crazy, that are gaslighting them, telling them that like their teeth falling out, their rashes, their nausea, their vomiting, their diarrhea, their sleeplessness, just their sickness. They're telling them it's all in their heads. It's
Yeah.
just, it infuriates me. You know, as a doctor, if you do that, if you use your authority to mislead people and to
Yeah.
defend power, you are on your way to a big malpractice suit.
Yes.
Like, where's the malpractice here? Where's the power of people to hold our institutions accountable for institutional malpractice? The EPA should be on the side of the people here, not on the side of Norfolk Southern. And they've just been, conducting a cover up for them. And what you discovered, what you had sent me today, Joy, about,
Isn't that something?
would you just please explain to the listening audience about what you found? This is just jaw dropping.
It's just, I mean, it's not surprising, but it's like, whoa, are you freaking kidding me? Government Accountability Project, who are just warriors who have helped people like Edward Snowden. They have, thankfully, since my whistleblowing recording on the EPA, they have included me in all their FOIAs, and I'm just so honored to be trusted by them. Their newest FOIA they sent me, which there is more to come, but the newest one they sent me was just, for those who know me, I really got my start on my show and as being a Medicare for All activist. And I talk a lot about 1881A, and I even, organized and held the Medicare for All rally for East Palestine back last July. And so they're very educated on 1881A now. They're very much in support of Medicare for All, which is why it's not a red-blue issue, because they very much support it. And when I met with the EPA lead of East Palestine, Mark Durno, the recording's on my YouTube, he said, 1881A, I'm not really sure what that is. So a day ago, FOIA was sent to me. This is an email from Robert Kaplan, who is the lawyer of the EPA who handles East Palestine. This is from February 20th, 2023. So over a year ago. This was from 17 days after the derailment and 14 days after they exploded everything. He said, the issue of declaring a public health emergency is a difficult one. Like, we have done it once in Libby, Montana. However, best not to get into that. We have the authority. So what they said is they did know about 1881A. It's Libby, Montana. They directly quoted Libby, Montana. They freaking knew, even though we acted like he didn't in that meeting. And this was over a year ago. They could have had a public health emergency. And like Dr. Jill said, I mean, if you want to see the video of our town hall, it's on my YouTube. I mean, just listen to the lists of symptoms. And I'm sad to say it's gotten a lot worse in the past month.
Really? In what way, Joy? What's going on?
More people are winding up with seizures and tremors in the hospital.
Oh, man.
It's awful. It's awful. What is your response hearing that quote after seeing them and hearing from them personally, all this stuff they're going through?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, because what the EPA has been doing here from the get-go has just been so absolutely outrageous. People are sick. They've been exposed to extremely toxic and dangerous levels. And we know that when you go there, when press goes there, when people just get minimal exposures, they get extremely sick. And they are directing people to go back and get exposed. Yeah. And I mean, it's just absolutely criminal. It doesn't surprise me at all that the criminals who are subjecting people to this kind of unbelievable danger and abuse, this is public health abuse, that these people would be covering over, really papering over relief that they could have implemented, that that they could have called a public health emergency. I mean, they could have removed people from the site of the spill, like they should have done, like Times Beach or like Love Canal. There too, unfortunately, this is the rule and not the exception, that our regulatory institutions typically protect corporations and profits and not people. And, that's just been the American tradition since, since the colonists came here and, and practiced ethnic cleansing and genocide effectively, So this is kind of like follow on to these traditions, these worst of capitalism traditions that have just been abusing public health and the planet all the way, and trying to just destroy any promise of democracy that people may feel like we have. In the Declaration of Independence, it says that just power derives from the consent of the governed. People do not consent. I mean, we have absolute, mayhem. There's a complete political uprising. Rebellion is in full swing here, more than, 20 years ago, say, because confidence and faith in our institutions and in government, has just taken a nosedive, like in mainstream media. It's in the toilet. It's like single digits, the confidence that people have in Congress, or it may be like the low teens, confidence in Congress, in the presidency, in the judiciary, in really and in the media, just our institutions across the board. People feel like they are being taken for a ride. Polls show, you're probably very aware of this, Joy, that people rightly believe that mainstream media is purposefully misleading us, which is true most of the time. Mainstream media is in the business of careerism, lapdog journalism instead of watchdog journalism, which is what we need if we're going to have a democracy. We need the press to be holding their feet to the fire and creating transparency. It doesn't happen by itself. That's why we have the First Amendment. And that's why the First Amendment is under attack, because we have this predator corporate state right now that's just abusing the public. And we see it in East Palestine, and we see it in Palestine. It's like there's the domestic abuse here at home, and then there's the global abuse. And it's just intolerable, which is why we must rebel, and my mission is to help convince people to embrace, their convictions, to have the courage of our convictions, and to stand up and recognize that we have everything to gain here and nothing to lose by standing up, that Joe Biden is not the lesser evil. We have two greater evil options right now. Just what greater evil is there than genocide? And so, like, what are you worried about exactly? Fascism is here when you are throwing people off the ballot, when you are destroying the First Amendment, when you are throwing whistleblowers and journalists and publishers into jail, or blocking them from being in the country, throwing out Edward Snowden or Julian Assange, against whom they are plotting. They were plotting to assassinate him, and the court is now supposed to trust the United States to take good care of Julian Assange, that his life will be in good hands, that he won't be abused here by the agency that was plotting to, and the government that was plotting with its various agencies to assassinate him. It makes such a mockery of the judicial system. And it's our judiciary. It may be happening in the UK, but it's our judiciary. It's the US Department of Justice, which is really leading the charge here and calling the shots. So at any rate, our faith in these institutions is non-existent now. Thank you very much to just this complete sellout of our democracy and the political parties and the economic and political elites that are running the show. So people are rising up, and I feel like my job and your job too, as you brilliantly, show every day, what we're doing is helping to inform and educate people and encourage people to stand up with the courage of our convictions and to remember what Alice Walker said, that the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. Consider the numbers out there, 68%, according to a Reuters poll way back in the fall, wanted an immediate ceasefire and a negotiated solution. That's 68% of Americans. That's a lot of Americans. 87 million Americans who do not have adequate health insurance, either don't have it at all or just have it in part. 100 million locked into medical debt. 1 out of every 2 renters who can't afford the roof over their heads, who meet the technical criteria of actually being very stressed, are paying over 30% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads, which doesn't leave any money left over to live your life, pay your student debt. 40% of student debtors who couldn't pay their debt when Joe Biden arbitrarily restarted those payments when he didn't even need to, these payments on an outrageous debt that he himself created, Which brings me to, Joy, the other thing that you sent me about Biden's vote bottoming out.
Yeah. So I have the figures here, you guys. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you got to hear this. It's astounding. So when I saw it, it said he had the state of New York, it said he had 276,000 votes and change. Okay, President Biden in the entire state of New York. I'm like, that sounds really freaking low. So I did the research. It shows that 5.78 million New Yorkers who are active voters, registered Democrat, exist in New York City. So what you're saying is not even 1 million out of literally, if you're talking, over 5 million, not even a fraction of that voted. And, we'll never know who left the ballot blank because they're not going to tell us that. But that shows that, A, a lot of people weren't inspired to go out and vote for him, or B, a lot of people went out to vote just to leave it blank. So, I mean, how is someone supposed to win when active Democrat voters, and I looked up what is active, that means continually voting in every single election as a registered Democrat. So they stayed home this time. So what's your reaction to that, Jill?
Well, you made me want to go look up some more numbers. So I went and checked out how many people voted in the Democratic primary in 2020 compared to this mere, 270,000 votes for Biden. And then it was like 300,000 Democratic voters altogether. Biden got like 91% of that vote. Surprise, surprise. Right. But the total Democratic voters was around 300,000, just a little bit over. What was the Democrat vote in 2020, the last election? It was, let me find it in the number here. Oh, it was 1.8 million, roughly. So this is a fall of more than 80%. More than 80% of Democrats who came out in 2020 decided not to come out. It's like way bigger than the abandoned Biden vote, or the uncommitted or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
This is like an even bigger slap in the face to the Democratic Party.
And I think, last time during the primaries, there were choices, and that got people out. So I think that's really relative too, because a lot of us sure as hell didn't go vote for Biden. So I think, having those choices, i.e. third party or progressive, leftist, whatever you want to say, that gets people out. So
absolutely. Yes.
This time you have so-called 2 options in the, I don't even call it a duopoly. It's like one party. And no, that doesn't inspire people anymore. And I think even the vote blue, no matter who, people are starting to say, oh man, this sucks. Do you notice that?
Yes, and in fact, I did C-SPAN this morning. I did an interview on C-SPAN, and you get all comers on C-SPAN. You get a lot of seniors who spend a lot of time sitting at home and aren't exactly plugged into what's going on in the world right now. A lot of people will call for companionship on C-SPAN.
Right.
It's a very interesting crew. And so it's not like the people that are out there on the campaign trail that are coming out, it's more people who are staying at home and like, making a phone call to C-SPAN. And so people were kind of like old timer Democrats and Republicans for the most part, some independents. And then at the end, this woman came on who said, basically, I have been a Democratic voter for all of my life. I can't take it anymore. I'm not there. I'm voting green this time, and she said, everything you're saying, I'm just so with, and this is so true. It's really time for us to stand up and fight back. And it was so great to hear that, on C-SPAN, that little bit of fight, is coming through. So, it's happening, and it's got to happen. And it's just unbelievable that the Democrats have completely suppressed competition. They've suppressed debates. It's a dead party. It's a zombie party, like the Republicans. That too is a zombie party, and they're running 2 zombie candidates. So it couldn't be a better time to stand up and to really fight for an alternative, an independent third party, and to really reject this propaganda of hopelessness, this propaganda of powerlessness that tells you that you have to vote for the lesser evil. Well, which one is the lesser evil? Is it the one that's conducting genocide, or the one who's threatening? What did you say?
I said, I know Dr. Jill Stein. That's the lesser evil. Thank you.
Yeah,
I will be voting for that.
Right. We say, forget the lesser evil, fight for the greater good, like our lives depend on it, because they do. And that makes it simple. And just forget that propaganda. We got to stand up and fight. If we don't fight, it's over. Each month now has been the hottest month on record for the last 10 months. There's a full-blown drought in Southeast Africa now, Malawi, a couple other countries, huge drought. In the Philippines last week, there was a heat wave with the felt temperature. You have to integrate humidity in there, because if it's humid, you can't sweat. So your body's going to feel it as even hotter than it is. They had a felt, what's called a heat index of 110 degrees. They had to call off school because they couldn't even be out in the weather. We have a full, and here in New England, we just got snow, in fact, we're going into tomorrow, many feet of snow north of us in Maine. So this is not good. I don't mind the snow. That's for sure. No big deal, but something is really desperately wrong. We don't need snow to tell us that. And, what's wrong is that we have a predator government, which is serving the fossil fuel industry and the health insurance industry, and, passing policies on their behalf. You probably know, Joy, about this famous study called Gillens and Page. It was this big study done at Princeton and Northwestern that showed that just about 0% of policies are passed on behalf of the public interest. They are all being driven by lobbyists and campaign contributions. This is why, we need system change. And if you don't mind my saying, but RFK, is talking about being a people's candidate and how he's going to clean up government. But meantime, he's looking to his super PAC funded by billionaires to basically get him on the ballot. That's not okay. We are a people-powered, low-budget campaign. He wants to raise $18 million to get on the ballot across the country. $18 million because he doesn't have a people-powered campaign. We have a people-powered campaign. We have 75% of our total signatures done. We still have some to go, and we have three very difficult states to go right now. New York is the biggest, and then Illinois and Indiana, but it's New York, which is going to be the real gorilla. But it's going to cost us somewhere between 1 and 2 million to do the whole thing. It'll cost him 18 million. So I just want to encourage people, if you have spare change, throw it our way, because we are the one campaign right now that's on track to be on the ballot and really challenge empire. We are the one campaign which is pro-worker, anti-war, anti-genocide, and climate emergency. We're the one option. So it'll be one of us, and there will be 3 predator campaigns, that is anti-worker, pro-war, pro-genocide, and really anti-climate. Few people know how much Biden is an anti-climate president. He's not the climate president. He's an anti-climate president. And we can talk about that in a minute.
Blows my mind. When people say that, they're like, the most transformative climate bill ever. Well, nobody even admitted climate change until a few years ago. He's the only one who's even been president since people started talking about it seriously.
Well, so, and let me tell you, if you really dig deep into the Inflation Reduction Act, it is a fossil fuels first bill.
Yes.
It's not in the headlines about it, but you cannot pass a single program for renewable energy until you have done this. Get this, what it requires. Every year, you have to auction off 60 million acres of offshore waters for extraction, for fossil fuel extraction. This is from the president who said he would not do extraction on public land. Well, that's public waters. And then it also requires 2 million acres of public land be auctioned off for fossil fuel extraction every year for 10 years before any renewable projects can be built. You have to basically decimate what's left of the environment. And the other thing that people should know, so that's the Inflation Reduction Act. It's really a fossil fuels first bill. It does some good things, mostly for electric vehicles. But electric vehicles, I'm sorry, they're not going to save us. They're not. In fact, nature doesn't care about renewable energy. Nature only cares about the fossil fuel pollution, which is killing nature. So the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't reduce fossil fuels. It massively magnifies them. And related to that, and this goes back to the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. Thank you, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And I say that not only because of a variety of circumstantial evidence, Cy Hirsch's investigation. No one else has put forward a plausible explanation. And in fact, the US has been very active in undermining any studies. And that in itself is the most incriminating fact. Plus, you have all the high fives going on in the State Department when it was blown up. But the sequel of that is now, guess what? We have this huge market for US fossil fuel industry to send liquid natural gas, so-called liquid natural gas. It's methane. It's the most toxic fossil fuel around. And so Biden has given the okay for 22 new plants, these liquid natural gas plants, abbreviated LNG. There are these 22 new LNG plants in the pipeline. A couple of them are already built. A couple were probably approved before him. I don't know. But the bulk of them, the majority, were licensed and approved. Essentially, I guess licensed isn't the proper word, but they were approved for construction after the Nord Stream was blown up on Biden's watch. And here's the deal. According to the Sierra Club, these 22 LNG export facilities are the equivalent of building 440 new coal plants. And that knocks us back to 2005 levels of fossil fuel emissions. So it undoes all the progress for the past 2 decades. I don't know of anything that Trump has done that's been nearly as bad.
Wow.
So forget it when they tell you that, oh, Trump will do all these terrible things to the climate. Well, guess what? Biden is already doing them. Barack Obama himself was the father of all of the above, which massively exploded fossil fuel production. And there's been more extraction on public lands under Biden than under Trump. The Democrats are just better at public relations so that people don't know about their dirt the way they know about, Republican dirt. But they're all dirty, corrupt, and they need to be removed from power. Don't let them tell you that you don't know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You know that you don't have the health care and the housing and, the freedom from debt that you deserve and you need. Meanwhile, they are squandering half of our congressional budget on the endless war machine.
Yep.
You know how much that cost the average household in the US? This year alone, it's been $12,000. The average household has paid $12,000 worth of taxes in order to subsidize the ongoing catastrophe, the ongoing endless war catastrophe. And since 9/11 in 2001, it's been a total average household cost of $50,000. This is according to Jeffrey Sachs, the economist, and he's good at number crunching. He's head of the Sustainable Development Department at Columbia University and also for the UN Sustainable Development Project. So these numbers come with pretty good authority. If you feel like you're being ripped off, you're absolutely right. You are being ripped off because the war and the assault on everyday people all around the world is more important than your healthcare and your housing and your education.
And the focus. Like
What's that?
They show the focus. They show their priorities every day because nobody asks how you're going to pay for it until it comes to we need healthcare, we need housing, we need these things. Well, how are you going to pay for it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I mean, and Biden just approved another $3.3 billion to Israel. Now, let me get your reaction. Now he's coming out and saying immediate ceasefire after over 6 months.
Well, he could enforce that immediate ceasefire simply by using the power that he has to withhold weapons transfers. He could do that right now. But he just, at the same time that he's saying to his friend Bibi, you have to stop, you have to, well, actually, he didn't say you have to stop. He called for an immediate ceasefire. And then he said, you have to be more considerate of civilians. Right. Well, what? Be more considerate as you murder them and kill them
shake their hand first.
Yeah, a more kind form of death and destruction. But he could shut this down. He could say, if you don't stop, if you don't have a ceasefire, if you don't agree to a ceasefire now, we're ending weapons shipments. You've just had your last. It's also against U.S. law to do that. It is against U.S. law to send military aid to countries that are violating humanitarian law and interfering with humanitarian aid. And then you have the U.S. State Department disputing that, saying, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. If Israel's murder of 33,000 civilians and 14,000 children, if that doesn't constitute, a violation of humanitarian standards, then nothing does. It just makes a mockery of the whole system of international law and humanitarian rights, which of course is the way they think about it. They're destroying the body of international law, which is a dangerous thing to do because we're not going to be top dog for much longer. In fact, we're really not anymore. We've been losing all of these, all of these battles. The U.S. loses them. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, even, we are not winning. We're just squandering our resources, the resources of everyday people, and impoverishing us here at home and endangering everyone abroad. This is just, it's so unbelievably stupid and criminal. It just makes me want to keep repeating, they need to be removed from power. And then they need to be at The Hague, and they need to be on trial for their war crimes. And that's not just Biden and Blinken. It's also Congress that approves these bills unanimously to keep sending weapons to these genociders. It's just despicable what our political class has become, and they should be thrown out.
And what's even scarier is that even when Congress voted it down, Biden overruled it and did it anyway. So what is the point of Congress if he can just say, well, we're going to send it anyway? It doesn't, it's so disturbing. And I understand why people are getting very upset, because millions of us have been in the streets for 6 months. And what do we have? What do we have to show for it? It feels amazing to be with everyone and really, have that solidarity and everything like that. But beyond that, what have we gained?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I hope we've gained, what can I say? Understanding of Frederick Douglass's saying that power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. And we have to accelerate that demand. It's a tribute to everyone that's been out in the streets, that has been, blockading the motorcades, students at Simmons College this past week were sitting in their administration building. Did you hear about this? To demand an end to basically weapons contractors on campus, and the universities or the college, I guess, their contract with weapons contractors. And this is happening all over, that people are standing up and they won't be silenced. And we're making life very inconvenient for the genociders. And it should be very inconvenient. And this should just be, I think, building our power to remove them from office, and I think the more people expand this mobilization. So we need to mobilize on every front, and that includes in the voting booth. We need to mobilize rebellion in the voting booth, and to really bring to the voting booth the knowledge that we have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain by standing up and throwing out the lesser evil. The two greater evils really is what it is. And fighting for the greater good. Forget the lesser evil, fight for the greater good, like your life depends on it. We got to do that. If we don't do it, no one will, and the ship is going down. We don't have a lot of time to do this.
Can you explain to people what happens if the Green Party gets to 5%?
Sure. So what happens is that at that point we qualify, and we were running 4% in a recent, I think it was Quinnipiac, a reputable polling agency. We were running 4% on a most recent poll. So we're not far from that 5% threshold. If you wind up with 5% in the vote at the election time, and this is 5% of the popular vote, forget the electoral college, just the popular vote, that's the threshold for receiving matching funds in the next presidential race for the general election. And that means that we would have, I think it's somewhere around $20 million, which is a lot of money for us. We usually just operate on volunteer power. We're like $1 to $2 million campaigns for the most part. Wow. So this would be a huge boost. And we do a lot with every dollar because we are, because we're a grassroots group. We don't take private jets. We don't, we hardly take jets at all. We drive. We sit in the middle seat in the, in the coach. No first class for us. And no thank you, no thank you to that anyhow. So there's an awful lot we would do if we get to that kind of matching funds. The good news right now is that we have qualified for matching funds in this election for the primary. And we have reached the requirement, which isn't that great, but it can be hard for small grassroots parties to do this. We've reached that requirement, and basically all the small donations that we get now up until the general election, and that's like when the conventions are held. After the conventions are held they're going to be in August now for the most part, this year. So up until then, we'll be doubling every dollar that comes to us. So if you can throw in $10, that's a $20 contribution right there.
Awesome.
And this is huge because we have all these just very intense expenses that are coming down right now with the ballot drives. We are on now 22 ballots. There are several more, that is states. There are several more that are going to be turned in. These are batches of thousands of signatures, like in Ohio, I think Nevada, I'm not sure. I don't remember which other ones are turning in, but it's about another 3 or 4 states in the next couple of weeks. So the numbers are going to keep climbing. And we have some really difficult battles right now. Indiana, in fact, we're going there on Sunday. We'll be in Indiana to help jumpstart the petition drive and support the volunteers. So if you have spare change, think of it as an investment in your future that gets hugely leveraged in a very low budget campaign that is going to get on the ballot. That's basically what you're buying. You're buying a challenge to empire. You are buying our way to freedom and to political independence, and to a campaign that offers for every voter around the country a pro-worker, anti-war, anti-genocide, and climate emergency campaign. The other three candidates are all. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you're always going to hear this, but there's no chance she can win. And I say, look, I put that Eugene Debs quote where it says, I'd rather vote for what I want and not get it than vote for what I don't want and get it. This isn't, you can't just even think about stuff like this. I actually want to be okay with myself after the election. I actually want my conscience to, how many people did we see who voted for Hillary and then said, oh my God, she lost anyway. I sold my soul. We voted for her and she ended up losing anyway. Well, it's the same thing. Like, if you really are, free Palestine and stuff, why would you vote for Biden? I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. So if you are truly, truly anti-genocide, ceasefire now, free Palestine, Jill. Jill, I also want to talk to you about, how I feel about RFK Jr. All my people know. You are challenging him to a debate on Palestine and Israel, which is amazing. And I would love that so much. So the question is, has he heard of it? Has he responded?
He has, yes. Well, I don't know if he has, but his campaign has. And they finally responded, basically saying that he doesn't have time, that everybody wants him and he just can't be all the places that people need him to be, right, sure. He has not debated,
No.
Right. I mean, not only that, he says he's too good for us, people-powered campaigns. He just wants to be in his own class of the corporate predator campaigns. He wants to debate his own kind. Well, that's great, but he still has to be held accountable, and without debates, we really can't. But he's refused to debate everyone who wants to challenge him on Israel Palestine. He won't, because he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's very full of BS. So we're just going to keep insisting, And what's really infuriating is that he describes himself as a peace candidate, and he keeps assuring his followers that he's a peace candidate, and he covers up his position on Israel-Palestine. You have to actually look at who he's holding his fundraisers with,
Yep.
like the widow of Sheldon Adelson, who was like the biggest Zionist funder of a very conservative right-wing newspaper in Israel that helped swing public opinion to the right in Israel. Very just extremely Jewish fascism type person. His wife, and they continue to fund right-wing Zionist stuff.
Mhm.
His widow, like, he's holding fundraisers with her. It's just pretty shocking, unbelievable, and he appears with some of the most right-wing Jewish fascists out there. So it's disgusting. And he calls himself a peace candidate, as if the war in the Middle East, which is kind of brewing now, the US is bombing 3 countries plus Iranian targets. And then you have Israel, which is bombing some of those countries and then some that the US isn't. But altogether, it's an extremely explosive situation. And now you have Israel that just bombed the Iranian embassy. Actually, I guess it's the consulate, the Iranian consulate in Syria, in Damascus. And this is like a total violation of the most basic international law. It's an extremely provocative thing. And there are reports that Iran is now saying we will counterattack at a time of our choosing. And this is just accelerating up the ladder. How far does it go? Iran, is not a simple proposition here, because if Iran is very well armed, they have a very strong army, and they are networked with Russia. Russia has nuclear weapons. So it's not hard to see how this fight could go nuclear. We are all in the target here. As any nuclear conflict, it doesn't matter where it happens, whether you get the impact of the explosion or not, everybody's at risk for nuclear winter. And in case people don't know what that means, the power of a nuclear explosion, like the bombs and missiles dropped on Gaza, are the equivalent of 2 Hiroshima bombs. But they don't create global nuclear winter, because it's more spread out. When you drop ordnance that's nuclear, it's so intense all at once that it creates that mushroom cloud. And what happens in the mushroom cloud is that all this debris is being carried up into the upper atmosphere, where it's above the weather. So the weather can't bring it down. It can't rain it down. It stays up there for years, and it basically dims sunlight enough to reduce the production of food. So it causes global starvation. That's what nuclear winter is about. It's like as if it's winter and you can't grow crops. And one nuclear submarine, just one, which carries nuclear weapons, not all of them do, a couple don't, but most do. And the amount of nuclear weapons in one submarine, and we have like 14 of them here just for the US, and then of course there's China and Russia, which is why they all need to be abolished. And there is a treaty to do that, and we're trying to stop that treaty. But just one of these submarines contains the equivalent of 5,000 Hiroshima bombs, 5,000, which is enough to throw us into very serious nuclear winter. So one of these nuclear submarines is the end of civilization as we know it. And yet the US has 14 of them. What the hell are they thinking? These criminals need to be removed from office. They are not in a position to be, determining whether we all live or die. And that's what they've got. And they are absolutely clueless about the power of these weapons and their danger, which is why they can just recklessly send these nuclear submarines all over the world. And just the fact that they exist at all is just a moral abomination. And I just urge people, don't get angry, get even, make sure that we get on the ballot and tell everybody that this is this is the perfect storm. There are going to be 3 of these pro-genocide, pro-war, anti-worker campaigns on the ballot: Biden, Trump, and RFK. They're going to be on the ballot, splitting the pro-genocide vote 3 ways. We will be the only pro-worker, anti-genocide, anti-war campaign that's on the ballot across the country. So there will be one of us, 3 of them. If the vote gets divided 4 ways, and they're all splitting, the pro-war vote, in a 4-way race, it's possible to win the race with just 21% of the vote. I'm sorry, 26% of the vote. Could be the plurality, depending on how the numbers sort out. And I wouldn't hold my breath on this, but it's important to know that it's possible. It's possible to not just get to 5%, but to potentially get to 21% or more in a race where that's a winning number. And I'm sorry, I don't mean 21, I mean 26%. Don't rule out a black swan election, because this is an unprecedented moment where the dire, urgent need for transformative change, it's never been so urgent. And the possibility of actually creating that change is more real and present than it's ever been. So
and speaking of ballot access, I mean, you've always been a very strong supporter of ranked choice voting. What other implementations would you like to see? I know for myself, being in Pennsylvania, I would love an open primary. That would be awesome. I know a bunch of states are closed primaries. What other changes would you like to see to actually have democracy?
Well, I want to get money out of politics and get the people back in. So we need campaign finance reform. We need an end to Citizens United. We need an end to this ruling that money is speech, and therefore you can have unlimited quantities of it and throw it into an election. That's outrageous. That needs to end. We need to end the revolving door that allows people to move from corporations to regulating those corporations and basically, grease the skids for them to do what they want, whereby, like the FAA, did the bidding of the Sackler family. That was more just from buying influence. That wasn't like a revolving door. That was more a case of money in politics and buying your way in, buying the agency. You have the FAA and Boeing there too. I'm not sure whether it was actual people who got appointed or it was just this culture of corruption and influence through campaign contributions and lobbying. But I'd like to see our regulatory institutions totally cleaned up, as well as our electoral institutions, by getting big money out and putting people back in. It's not rocket science to do this. This is just basic civics.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you something, and I know you're not going to answer it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who are the VP options?
I would say there's some really interesting possibilities that are brewing, and stay tuned.
Because I had Mr. Baraka on my show, and he's like, I can't do politics. I can't. And I was like, please.
I know. I tried to get him to run for president. I wanted him to be our candidate. And he and I had a fight. We had a fight that went on for about 2 weeks, and he won the fight, which is why I stepped in, because he made me. I was going to make him, but what can I say? He has a stronger, whatever. He's more stubborn than me. He wouldn't.
So I noticed. Oh my God, my mind went blank. Gloria, the candidate.
So which candidate do you mean? There's some amazing Glorias out there.
Freedom and Socialist.
PSL, the PSL candidate?
PSL.
Yeah, Claudia de la Cruz. Yes.
You've been posting some pictures with her and giving her shout outs. So
Yeah.
some of us are just kind of wondering.
Oh, are you? Well, give me feedback because we are not,
I mean, she's awesome. I mean, I'm
yeah.
sure people would be down with that in a heartbeat. I don't know how she, feels about going green, but I mean, I'm sure people would support that in a heartbeat.
Cool.
But
Well, I
yeah,
will take
people
it.
see, look, I'm following you on Twitter. She's cool. I mean, you guys agree with a lot, and hey,
Oh,
that'd be
totally.
cool. I'm just look, text me after this. Tell me who you're picking because I won't tell anyone, I swear. No. I did want to show you. I received an endorsement right before we went on the air. Let me see if I can pull the picture up. Let's see. There we go. That is Duchess Snodgrass von Dumpling the Third. She is Jill 2024.
Oh man, wow. I would love to get the endorsements of all the pets out there, the dogs and the cats and the frogs,
Yeah.
and
We
I
should
would
do okay. Fur baby for Jill. Let's make it happen, Twitter. Fur babies for
yeah,
Jill. Or
really
reptile babies or
yes, and just post a picture with an endorsement, just like like that little cutie did there. Yeah.
she's not very political, but man, she's like vet care for all, clean environment for me to go potty. Like this is what's up. She's all about it. So
Now, what's your relationship to this little
oh,
person?
she's my dog.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah,
Wow.
she is 15. We adopted her
Oh,
exactly 14 years ago tomorrow. Um,
wow. Happy birthday, I guess.
so yeah, she makes appearances on the show sometimes, but
Oh,
uh,
sweet.
I was like, oh my gosh, she has a cat. This is perfect.
Oh, yeah. Is my cat in view? No, I think Willie usually does a cameo appearance. And then usually I move him on because he likes to be like right in between me and the camera. So I usually have to move
What
him
is
on.
what is something you want to leave the audience with? What do you want them to take with them, especially for when they're feeling, kind of defeatist?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I really want to leave you with what Alice Walker said. And I remind myself of this many times a day, that the biggest way we give up power is by not realizing we have it to start with. And to become part of the community of struggle it's just transformational, and it changes your world. And it's so important not to think that it's your fault. I think especially, there's a generational divide. There was a generation that was part of acquiring a lot of wealth, and then there was a younger generation that got locked out of all of that. And it's horrible. And our system makes it worse by locking you into student debt, denying you housing that you can afford, and a food system that makes us sick. And we live in food deserts, and people are just despondent and depressed, and it's not you. And it's so important to just fight back and not like take it in on yourself that it's your fault, but it's like, how did this damn system, get away with this? And to not let it get away with it, and to join a community of struggle. And that could be a social movement. It could be the Green Party. It could be our campaign, which is, we have a shared vision, and then we work to make it happen and to help each other, make it happen together, creating a world that works for all of us. I mean, this is like the motto of our campaign now, is that, we demand an America and a world that works for all of us. And just having that sense of a shared destiny and working with a community that is delivering that destiny and holds power accountable to basically remove the predators from the position that they occupy. And this is all about our deciding to lift ourselves up together. So I urge you to hang in there and to appreciate your strength and to appreciate our collective strength. And let's make it happen.
Absolutely. Can you give everyone your website, all your contacts, your social media, all those fun things?
Yeah. So the website is just jillstein2024.com. And our social media is all, at Jill Stein. Oh, let's see.
I
Let me
think it's
take that back.
Dr. Jill
It
Stein.
is Dr.
on
Yes, it's Dr. Dr. No period Jill Stein. That'll get you there. I know that's the Twitter. I don't actually even know the Instagram offhand and the TikTok. Is that the same as Twitter?
I know, but I don't really go on.
Okay. All right.
I'm old. I don't know. I stick to Twitter. That was a huge revolution for me. But thank you so much for coming. As always, thank you for your fight.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you've done for the people of EP.
Oh,
If you
man.
don't mind, if you could stick around 1 minute after we get off the air. You guys, if you've never been here, I apologize. I didn't read out the comments. I am 85% blind, and I am a lone wolf. So I could not see any, but I do read them with my little machine thingy after I get off the air. So I definitely will read them. Smash the like, subscribe, share this. Also, please subscribe to my Rumble. I just created it. I'm going to start putting clips of these shows on the Rumble. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, much love. And again, thank you so much, Jill. I appreciate it.
My honor, Joy. It's always such an inspiration. It's really amazing. Yeah, it's great
Thank
talking
you.
with you. Thank you. Keep it up.